Okay, so we're back with our letter program. Let's look at functions. If you remember, this is the very last thing we need to do in our objective. And we also need to talk a little bit about abstraction. You might think of this idea as almost being like the most important concept out of all of these things in computer science. And the reason I say that is, if we look at our code here, this actually might seem a little complicated, but in reality, there's a lot more going on in your computer that is extremely complicated and extremely advanced. And us writing or dropping blocks onto a screen is actually a very simplified way of us thinking about how our computer works and how code is processed. So this is in itself, Scratch in itself is a layer of abstraction on top of all the electronics that are inside our computer, the electrons that are flowing through transistors, doing different things. So Scratch is a layer of abstraction to help us simplify that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add another layer of abstraction on top of our program here to make it a little simpler. So if I look at my program, I can see that there's really one big chunk of this program that's doing one thing. And if I pull this bottom part off, and I pull this top part off, and actually, you know what, I'll leave that one there, but I pull this top part off, really this whole chunk of code right here is really the gist of our program. And you'll see what it's doing, and actually I will keep let's put this all in here. This is really the gist of our program. We ask for a word, and we ask for a word, and then it processes that word for us, right? So it finds the vowels, it finds the consonants, and it prints those things out. So what I'm going to do is we're going to create a function, and we're going to call it find letter. And it can be anything. You can call it whatever makes sense to you. But we're going to create a function that essentially does all of this so that we no longer need to have this big block of code inside our main program. So before I do that, I'm going to move this back over. And then a thing that I like to do here, I know this code right here works. I know it works. So what I want to do, I don't want to delete this or mess around with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on my sprite, and I'm going to duplicate that sprite. You'll notice that both of these have the same blocks of code. So for right now, I'm just going to work with sprite 2. And what I can actually do is hide sprite 1. So sprite 1's still there, right? But I'm just not seeing it. So let me see, will they run? Yeah, it won't, the other one won't run if it's hidden, so perfect. So here's how I'm gonna build my function. I know I want my program to do all of these things. And so what I need to do is I'm gonna come over to the My Blocks category on the left, and I'm gonna click Make a Block. And again, I'm just going to call this find letter. Again, it could be anything that you want it to be. That makes sense to you. So for right now, I'm just going to call it find letter. Now, this is called a function. Now, what the function is going to do, it's going to essentially hide all of the steps in this part of our program, and it's just going to do all of this work for us whenever we use this find letter block. Okay, so it's going to make it very easy. However, you'll notice that if I right click this and I say edit, so I just right clicked my function block. If I right click it and say edit, you'll see that it gives me some options to add an input. inputs in a function are also called parameters. Okay, so this right here would be a parameter. It means that it's taking in some piece of information in order for it to do whatever task the function is set up to do. So for example, over here, I know that I need to take in a user word. And really that's all I need to do. I need to take in a user word, that's it. And then the function is gonna do the rest. So I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna 2-finger tap or right click, hit edit. I wanna name this exactly what it is, user word. And I'm gonna hit okay. Same as what I have here. And here's what the user word is going to do. It's gonna take in a word, and I'm gonna grab this whole chunk of my code. Okay, and I'm gonna move it right there. And instead of using the answer, it's gonna use the user word. Now that kind of looks a little confusing, but basically what's happening is this is a function and it takes in a word. So whatever word is placed here is gonna be what this variable inside our function does. So when we run the find letter function, it takes in a user word, it sets it equal right here, and then it's going to run the rest of our code. So as you can see over here, this is our function. I'm going to just add a comment so that I remember what it does, just in case. Another really important thing about programming is putting as many comments as you can, because I can tell you, if I come back to this program in like a year, well, especially after the summer, I just might not remember what it does. So this is a function that will find the number of vowels and consonants, and vowels only and consonants only words. So I just left a comment for myself just so I remember what that is. Right there. Okay, so far so good. And maybe I'll just move my function down here, just so it's a little out of the way there. And then this is my main program up here. So here's the really cool thing. I can grab my find letter block and drop it right there. And what's really, really cool is that I don't actually even need to create a variable right now. I can just go over to sensing, like we did at the very beginning, and grab the answer and drop it in there. Because you'll see right here, the function takes in a user word, right? We called it user word here, but over here, it's the same thing, right? It's the input, which is the answer. So let's see what happens when we run this code. Welcome, this is the letter program. Please enter a word. Oh, and you'll notice it dropped it down here this time. So this just looks a little different, but ooh, that didn't work. Oh, there we go. There it goes. Okay, okay, so this one is in fact running. So I'm gonna come over here and just pull that off. This is just how you can sort of stop your program from running. Just separate the when flag is clicked, just to make sure we've got the right thing running. So the length of the word is 6 and it is even. And there we go. So it's doing the exact same thing. And what's really cool about this if I hide this, right, all we see is this part of the program. Now, that is a lot simpler than this. And that right there, this is abstraction. We are adding just a layer of abstraction to help us simplify our code. This is abstraction. Yay. Yeah, that's abstraction. Pretty cool. A lot cleaner. Looks really nice. And you know what? If I really wanted to, this, not this part, but this right here, you could probably turn this into a function as well. You could call it maybe a odd or even could be the name of the function. And that would simplify our program even more. And the really cool thing, another cool thing about this is that when you start writing with more advanced code, so like actual text programming languages, you'll be able to actually use your functions throughout other parts of your program, right? You might be able to save your function and import it into any other program that you do. So once you've created a function, you don't have to create it again. All of these steps are there. So the next time I need a find letter function, I can just grab one. So it's actually really, really cool, I think. So basically, we are done with our program. And you'll notice that we did all of these things. There was a lot of stuff there. So great job. There is, however, one very final thing I would like for you to do before you turn this in. What you're going to do is customize your program just a little bit. So you're going to change the backdrop. You might change the sprite. Maybe you change the words a little bit. I don't mind. But the two key things I'd like you to do is you are going to change the background and change the sprite to customize it. So I'll write that right here. One last thing you got to do. Final task 1, change the background. 2, change the sprite. Oh, and in case you don't know what a sprite is, these characters are sprites. So, FYI. And it's pretty straightforward to change the sprite. All you have to do is come down here. You can choose a sprite. You can paint a sprite. You can upload a sprite. To adjust your background, you just click right over on the stage. They also call this a stage. And you can go over here to backdrops. You can do a little custom backdrop, or you can click here and you can choose different options right there. You can also do different things with your sprite itself. If I click on the sprite, I can go over here to costumes. You'll notice that there's 2 costumes for the sprite to make it look like it's walking. So there's a lot of different options for you to customize your program, but those are the 2 key things I'd like you to do before you turn this in. At least change the background, change the sprite. That way I know that at least it's you doing this and not somebody else. And then of course, optional, customize anything else you want to. Customize anything else you want. That's optional though. At least the background and the sprite, those are the 2 key things. Otherwise, fantastic job getting this done. Hopefully you're proud of that because, believe it or not, this is a fairly complex program. And you've actually learned some of the very key things in computer science. And you'll be able to apply these to more advanced programming languages and also solving more complex problems. So great job. Pat yourself on the back. Otherwise, have a fantastic day.